Thank you, Mark. I really appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, everybody. It's always a pleasure to be back at ICD. I've been with ICD, 12 years? 11, 12 years at least. I can't remember anymore. Anyway, my presentation, as is always the case, is of academic nature. It's on promoting cultural diversity through the liberal arts higher education model, which I consider the best higher education model from my experience. And the idea is to leverage culture and folklore in cultural diplomacy. So before I start my presentation, I want to just mention that today it's estimated that there are over 30,000 universities globally, and probably more than 45,000 when considering also post-secondary higher education institutions that offer diplomas and bachelor degrees only. Around a quarter of those are in North America, quarter in Asia, about 35% in Europe, 10% in Africa, and the remaining 5% is the rest of the world. However, in the absence of transparent and new surveys, I think the number is much higher. The reason why I'm saying that is that the demand for tertiary education will increase exponentially over the coming 3 decades, which means that by default, there will be increasing demand for online degrees to reach the masses. As far as I'm concerned, there's no other option, because even if we build a new university every day with 1,000 students, it will not address at the global level, it will not address the needs in terms of the number of students that want to go into tertiary education over the coming 2-3 decades. However, in light of all of that, in terms of percentage, a relatively small group of universities across the globe, mainly in North America, some in Europe, some in the Middle East, offer liberal arts undergraduate programs that value soft skills as much as hard skills. And I don't know, you might have seen some of the surveys carried out by some of the biggest international companies that basically indicate that the problems that they face with new graduates that they hire is not the hard skills. It is not the specialization in and know-how in the subject matter. It's more on the soft skills. And that's what I'm going to address in my presentation. And then I'm going to talk about how cultural diplomacy can be integrated into those soft skills that correlate to the title of my talk. So first of all, the abstract. To give you an overview, in today's interconnected global landscape, the promotion of cultural diversity stands as a cornerstone for fostering harmonious relationships among nations. Culture and folklore serve as powerful tools for cultural diplomacy, bridging diplomatic, economic, and cultural divides. This presentation delves into the role of liberal arts undergraduate education in advancing cultural diversity through the integration of culture and folklore into the curriculum, thereby nurturing the soft skills requisite for effective cultural diplomacy. The internationalization of higher education, propelled by globalization and technological advancements, underscores the significance of integrating global perspectives, cross-cultural understanding, and interdisciplinary approaches into the educational milieu. Liberal arts education, with its emphasis on critical thinking, communication, and cultural competence, equips students with the tools to engage meaningfully with diverse cultures. By integrating cultural diplomacy initiatives into curricula, liberal arts institutions empower students to become adept cultural diplomats, fostering mutual understanding and cooperation across borders. Moreover, the incorporation of emotional intelligence education into curricula enhances students' capacity for empathy, self-awareness, and effective communication, thus enabling them to navigate complex social dynamics with sensitivity and compassion. Through this dual approach, liberal arts education not only cultivates global citizens, but also fosters inclusive, harmonious societies where diversity is celebrated and conflicts are resolved constructively. Ultimately, prioritizing cultural diversity through the liberal arts higher education model emerges as an imperative for nurturing a more interconnected and peaceful world. So, you probably already know when I talk about liberal arts education, it emphasizes soft skills to cultivate critical thinking, communication, creativity, adaptability, collaboration, cultural competence, as well as ethical reasoning. So in our modern interconnected world, championing cultural diversity and fostering mutual understanding are pivotal for nurturing prosperous and harmonious relations between nations. Culture, encompassing shared meanings, beliefs, values, and behaviors, serve as the foundation upon which interpersonal communication and interpretations of experiences are built. Leveraging culture and folklore proves to be a powerful tool in the realm of cultural diplomacy, empowering individuals to forge robust diplomatic, economic, and cultural connections. The general education or soft skills component of all undergraduate programs in liberal arts universities may reach over a third of the credits needed for graduation. It was not the case when I did my undergraduate program back in the UK, but this is the case for such universities or institutions. So this paper delves into the transformative potential of integrating culture and folklore within the soft skills of curricula of liberal arts undergraduate education. By doing so, it aims to cultivate the essential soft skills requisite for effective cultural diplomacy. Through this approach, higher education institutions can actively contribute to the promotion of cultural diversity, equipping future generations with cross-cultural competency necessary to navigate our increasingly interconnected global landscape. So to put a bit of meat on the bones, I want to say a few words before going on about what the general education component or the soft skills component is. Well, if you want to have a breakdown of the general education credits in a liberal arts undergraduate program, typically it includes courses from different disciplines to provide students with a well-rounded education. Here is a typical breakdown. I mean, it doesn't have to be exactly that, but typically that's what it would include. 1, English composition, communication skills, 6 to 9 credits, writing skills, critical reading, and analytical thinking. I mean, I'm an engineer. You can have the best engineer in the world. If you cannot communicate your ideas, you can't do much. 2, mathematics, 3 to 6 credits to develop quantitative reasoning and problem-solving skills necessary for any major, whatever you major in. 3, natural sciences, 6 to 9 credits, includes biology, chemistry, physics, astronomy, geology, or even environmental sciences. 4, social sciences, again 6 to 9 credits, to explore human behavior, societies, and cultures. So you could have topics in physiology, sociology, anthropology, economics, political science, or even geography. 5, humanities, again 6 to 9 credits, 2 to 3 courses. So it encompasses courses in literature, history, philosophy, religion, as well as arts. So students may explore various cultures, cultural traditions, periods, and themes. And 6, fine arts, again 3 to 6 credits, which focus on creative expression, aesthetics, and cultural appreciation. So courses in visual arts, music, theater, dance, or film studies. The total number of general education credits can vary, but typically ranges from 30 to 40 credits, depending on the institution's requirements, which depends on what sort of institutional accreditation they seek. And there are hundreds of boards across the world that offer institutional accreditations to universities of those kinds. The internationalization of higher education stands as a vital process integral to universities and colleges worldwide, as they strive to integrate global perspectives, experiences, and collaborative efforts into their core functions. This evolution has gained unprecedented significance in recent decades, propelled by the forces of globalization, technological advancements, and the increasing need for a workforce adept in navigating a globalized landscape. So central to the internationalization framework are several key facets. Number one, student mobility. So encompassing the dynamic movement of students across borders for educational pursuits, including studying abroad, engaging in exchange programs, or pursuing degrees in foreign institutions, like most of you here are doing right now. Two, faculty exchange and collaboration. So universities cultivate international partnerships to facilitate faculty exchange programs, collaborative research ventures, and academic cooperation, thereby elevating the standards of education and research. Three, curriculum internationalization. So institutions adapt their academic offerings to infuse global perspectives, foster cross-cultural understanding, and endorse interdisciplinary approaches, thus equipping students with the acumen needed to thrive in a globalized environment. Four, global research networks. Universities partake in collaborative research endeavors with global counterparts, addressing shared challenges, disseminating knowledge, and propelling innovation forward. Five, international recruitment. Institutions actively seek students and faculty from diverse cultural backgrounds, enriching the educational milieu and championing diversity and inclusivity. Six, transnational education. This encompasses the establishment of branch campuses, joint degree programs, and online educational initiatives extending the reach of education beyond national boundaries. And seven, cultural exchange and diplomacy, the topic of the paper. Higher education institutions serve as conduits for cultural exchange, nurturing mutual understanding and fostering diplomatic ties between nations. So in essence, the internationalization of higher education serves as a catalyst for academic excellence, cultural diversity, and the cultivation of global citizenship, thereby propelling the advancement of knowledge and fostering a more interconnected and prosperous world. On another front, liberal arts undergraduate education assumes a pivotal role in shaping individuals equipped with critical thinking, effective communication, empathy, very important, and cultural competence. Through an interdisciplinary curriculum, experiential learning, and exposure to diverse artistic expressions, liberal arts students develop a profound appreciation for cultural diversity. Furthermore, such education cultivates the essential soft skills requisite for effective cultural diplomacy, including intercultural communication, adaptability, and empathy. To be honest, I mean, this is why Lebanese are so successful wherever they go. I mean, they're all over. They've been migrating for hundreds of years. It's because of this additional component of cultural diversity that they have, because they travel, because of their educational programs in the country, because they are multilingual, and so on. So together, the internationalization of higher education and the tenets of liberal arts education converge to foster an environment where individuals are empowered to engage meaningfully with diverse cultures and perspectives, thereby contributing to the promotion of cultural understanding and global harmony. Now, on the issue of integrating culture and folklore into the curricula, cultural diplomacy stands as a strategic endeavor harnessing the power of cultural expressions, traditions, and narratives to foster understanding and cooperation among nations. By tapping into the rich tapestry of culture and folklore, countries can ignite a shared sense of inspiration, transcending borders and forging meaningful connections. Cultural diplomacy, mutual respect, dialogue, and collaboration lays the groundwork for prosperous and peaceful relations among diverse communities. To champion cultural diversity, liberal arts higher education institutions can play a pivotal role by seamlessly integrating culture and folklore into their general education or soft skills components of curricula across various disciplines. And by the way, this component is the same for everybody. Medical doctors, engineers, social sciences students, humanities, whatever it is. This integration unfolds through specialized courses in cultural studies, anthropology, literature, and the arts, where students embark on journeys to explore the myriad expressions and traditions of diverse cultures. Some liberal arts universities may choose several of these soft skill courses to be required rather than optional out of the pool of general education needed credits across different disciplines. Complementing classroom learning, experiential opportunities such as immersed study abroad programs, vibrant cultural exchanges, and community engagement initiatives serve as catalysts deepening students' appreciation of global cultures and nurturing cross-cultural dialogue. So, by weaving cultural diplomacy initiatives into their curricula, liberal arts institutions empower students to emerge as effective advocates for peace and understanding on the global stage. This empowerment hinges on nurturing students' ability to comprehend, respect, and engage with diverse cultures, thereby fostering mutual understanding and collaboration across geographical boundaries. Through avenues for cross-cultural exchanges, language acquisition, and immersive experiences, students not only assume the mantle of cultural ambassadors for their own heritage, but also cultivate an enriched appreciation for the cultural tapestry of others. And this is the important dimension that should be instilled in students. Furthermore, the integration of emotional intelligence education within the curriculum equips students with indispensable skills such as empathy, self-awareness, and adept communication. Armed with these tools, students navigate intricate social dynamics with sensitivity and empathy, fostering compassionate interactions and constructive dialogue. Through this dual approach of cultural diplomacy and emotional intelligence cultivation, students not only emerge as global citizens, but also play an active role in shaping inclusive and harmonious societies where diversity is celebrated and conflicts find resolution. Prioritizing emotional intelligence education not only enhances students' academic prowess, but also bolsters their social and emotional well-being, propelling them towards fulfilling personal and professional trajectories while making impactful contributions to their communities and the broader global landscape. So in conclusion, the integration of culture and folklore into the liberal arts higher education model for promoting cultural diversity stands as an endeavor in fostering prosperous and peaceful relations among nations. By equipping students with the necessary soft skills for effective cultural diplomacy, such as empathy, communication, and intercultural understanding, liberal arts institutions can play a pivotal role, a vital role, in shaping a globally minded citizens capable of navigating the complexities of our interconnected world. Moreover, the emphasis on emotional intelligence education further enhances students' ability to engage with diverse cultures with sensitivity and compassion. Through this holistic approach, liberal arts education not only cultivates individuals who embrace diversity, but also empowers them to become advocates for peace and understanding on a global scale. As we continue to strive for a more inclusive and harmonious society, the promotion of cultural diversity through the liberal arts higher education model remains an indispensable pathway towards building bridges of mutual respect and cooperation across borders. Thank you. So I wanted to leave more time for questions so that I think it's the more enriching part of the presentation.
Excellent. And thank you so much, Professor Diab, for the presentation, and also for giving us ample opportunities to engage in discussion, questions, and debate. So this is your special opportunity former Prime Minister, former Minister of Education, former president of various academic institutions. Anything you'd like to ask about cultural diplomacy, about the role that education plays? He's all yours. So as always, raise your hand if you'd like to pose a question. Okay, me again.
Well, thank you for a very interesting discussion. I agree with almost everything you say. I would just have a question though. Because of there is on the one hand an increasing demand for STEM, for hard sciences. At the same time, as you point out, social sciences are crucial in terms of emotional intelligence, conveying information in a reasonable way, etc. So there's demands to constantly increase that. There's also the echo chambers of fake news and AI, which is going to that has just only started. So my question is, don't you have to constantly adjust the curriculum for that? And second, how do you make this balance between increasing demands for STEM and increasing demands for social sciences? Because there's only so much time, and the competition seems to get harder and harder. Thank you.
A very good question. As an engineer, I appreciate the issue at hand, what you just mentioned in your question. But if you consider some of the top universities in the world, in North America, the rest of the world, and as far as STEM is concerned, they have been able to manage to find this balance between the depth and the subject matter, whatever it is, STEM related, and the general education component that will basically create a global leader. You know, the intention behind this soft skills component is to support your in-depth hard skills, knowledge in the subject matter that you have gained in the other components, in order to use it constructively. Because at the end of the day, you're communicating with people to pass your ideas. Nobody works in a closed office environment, doesn't communicate with anybody. So the soft skills are necessary for you to succeed in your work, in your family, in your neighborhood, in your country. And it is supposed to create leaders, something that we lack in the world. I know it's something we lack in Lebanon. So to create leaders, this is the best place, you know, for students to get their ideas molded, for them to discover themselves, for them to get the state of the art in the soft skills, the general education. I mean, I'm not saying it. Big companies in North America saying it. You're talking about huge multinational companies in the mobile industry, in the computer industry, that are saying soft skills are just as important as hard skills. And this is the problems where they're facing with new graduates that they hire. It's the soft skills that they have problems with. So how do you balance it? Yeah, it's not easy. I mean, there's no photocopy. I mean, you don't have to be the same as other institutions. You can have your own specificities, intricacies, because that is a factor of the requirements of the Ministry of Higher Education at your country. It's the requirements of what sort of institutional accreditation you're going to seek. It's the requirements of what sort of program accreditation. I mean, in engineering, we have ABIT. In business, you have AACSB, you know, different accreditation bodies. And even for engineering, you have tens of different bodies. I mean, I'm talking about the US ones because they are the best accrediting bodies for different disciplines. So the balance is not easy. I mean, I've been doing it for 30 years and it's not easy. And you're absolutely right. I mean, it's not just the soft skills, even the hard skills change year by year, especially in my area, in computer engineering. I mean, in geography, it might change every 4 or 5 years, but in engineering, every year. So there has to be a mechanism put in place to revise the whole curricula for each major, in as far as the hard skills, the courses that have to do with the subject matter expertise, whether it's engineering or sociology or geography, whatever it is, and the general education or the soft skills component, because these requirements change. As you correctly say, AI is going to change everything. So I would say, if I had if I was a decision maker, that AI, one way or the other, has to be part of the soft skills. And when I say that there are so many requirements, it doesn't have to be a full course. I mean, you can integrate different ideas into the soft skills, not as a full course. It could be the projects that you have in that specific course. It could be even the projects and the research that you would have in the hard skills courses. I mean, you can in a let's say computer engineering. In a computer engineering course, multiprocessing or high performance computing systems. So I used to, I don't teach now, but I used to give a lot of research papers, projects, software tasks, but I always required groups to work. So while you're doing your thing in the hard skills in a specific course, you're also encouraging group work, communication between them, research, analysis and synthesis, which is part of the soft skills, to teach you how to analyze and synthesize your ideas. Not to believe what you hear, because you correctly say, you probably asked 10 questions in one. Fake news. Today, you can have people put you in a movie doing whatever, and you've never been there, or giving a speech that you never gave, or whatever, I know because I was prime minister, and 90% of what went into the media was fake, Wow. Absolutely, in Lebanon. I don't know, maybe it's not as bad as elsewhere, because Lebanon, there's deep division over the past few years, and a few years, maybe a few decades, I don't know, I think it's the place where you can cultivate the minds of undergraduates, so they can be global leaders, so they can be global citizens, so they can be open to other cultures, to other ideas. So if you present an idea in whatever topic, in geography, social sciences, in whatever, I don't tell you, no, this is rubbish. I keep an open mind. I don't have to be right all the time. Maybe you're right. So this is acquired. People tend to be, from young age, very personal about their ideas. No, what I'm saying is right, But when you reach a certain degree of wisdom, you do exactly the opposite. I remember my PhD advisor, I used to propose to him ideas that he knew would never work. But his response was, yeah, you know what, Hassan, why don't you try that? And I used to try that, and it didn't work. He already knew it wouldn't work. So it's an approach. But it's a golden opportunity for students to gain a lot. And when they miss that in the undergraduate programs, because they're not in a liberal arts higher education institution, they miss a lot. Because you cannot possibly implement this in master's and PhD programs. It's all subject matter expertise. The only option and the only opportunity you have is to do it in the undergraduate program, which is 3 years in Lebanon, not in engineering, but in most 90% of the majors, because they enter sophomore. Our baccalaureate high school system, graduates of the baccalaureate system, they enter into sophomore, unlike North America where they enter in freshman, so 4-year program. And, it's a shame. That's why liberal arts higher education institutions spend a lot of effort and money to get a diversified student body. So the American University of Beirut, where I worked for over 30 years, before I became prime minister, has 60 nationalities in the student body. So when you spend 3 or 4 or 5 years, depending on the major in the university, it's like you've been, it's like you've interacted with so many cultures without even traveling, And the same applies to the faculty body, same applies to the staff and management body. I think diversity is extremely important. and understanding and opening up to other cultures, other ideas is essential for not just for communicating with the other, but also for being successful in life, let's say, in general. But more importantly, the world needs, leaders, and such a system can definitely contribute much more than other non-liberal higher education systems to graduating leaders.
Thank you, Prime Minister. You have centered your talk on higher education, but I'm thinking about the previous 18 years of a child, of a young man or woman. And I would like to see really what you have discussed being introduced from even the kindergarten, teaching children, young people about cultural diversity, the need to familiarize them with other cultures, respect other cultures, other religions. So what can we do as Institute for Cultural Diplomacy, but also as UNESCO, for example, in that direction? International organizations like UNESCO, introducing cultural diplomacy or cultural diversity education from the very young years of a child's life.
Thank you for the question. Very important question. Actually, when I was minister, I was minister of what used to be 3 ministries. Education, so that covers K to 12. We have about 3,000. We had 3,000 schools, public and private schools in Lebanon. And then you have the higher education. We have almost 60 higher education institutions. Half of them are universities. And also vocational and technical education. We had about 150 such schools, leading to the bachelor degree, called licence technique, equivalent to a bachelor. So the reason why I'm mentioning that is when I was minister, I signed a lot of agreements for partnering public schools in Lebanon with schools elsewhere, in England, in Europe, and even in the States. And the idea is exactly what you mentioned, to allow, to expose our students, especially public schools that don't have the capacity or the financial ability to travel and to, especially at that level, to mingle with other cultures, other students from other countries, from other everything, yeah? And that proved to be extremely helpful. And they used to do projects together. So it's not a group here and a group there. The group is a mix between both sides that compete with other groups that are a mix between a school in England, for example, and a school in Lebanon. The earlier the better. You can expose students to the only problem in K to 12 is that the maneuverability you have, other than experiential learning component projects and so on, is not as much as the maneuverability you have in undergraduate programs, in the sense that there are national requirements, at least in Lebanon, that you have to fulfill. In Lebanon, we have some of the best educational systems in the region, in the MENA region. So, but it's very heavy, which I don't like. But I think we load students from even preschool, from pre-KG, which I think is a big mistake, because you have to allow opportunities for very young students to imagine, to create, and you should never tell them no matter how strange the idea might be. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is that definitely yes, we should also look at that for K to 12, and the earlier the better, in terms of the requirements that are needed for the courses. So we're talking about projects, research papers, activities, blah, blah. that lead to the same aims as what I mentioned at undergraduate level. But I don't think there is, at least in the Lebanese K-12 system, much opportunity to integrate full courses on such topics. But it's important to instill these values as early on as possible, and at the same time keep in mind the national requirements for courses, which I think is too demanding for students. I mean, we generate top students academically, but I'm not sure we generate top students on the non-academic. I'm talking about the high school. But if you're talking about politicians in Lebanon, very few, I think there are one or two that don't have at least a bachelor degree. So they go on and continue, hopefully it's a liberal arts higher education institution that they've done their bachelor in, to gain what they have not gained in K-12 in the undergraduate program at the university level. Next. Don't be shy. Go ahead.
Thank you, Prime Minister. So
you're a student?
yes. You mentioned about the people-to-people aspect of cultural diversity and cross-cultural exchange, but I think for students or individuals to become better representative of their cultures, they need to know more about their own cultures as well, in terms of the heritage sites or the folk tales or oral traditions and whatnot. So how do you think, what role can education play, whether at the higher education level or the primary education level, in terms of creating demand for domestic culture? So like a lot of people in Lebanon, do they know about all the UNESCO heritage sites or in even different countries? So how can education help create demand for consuming culture responsibly, sustainably?
Yeah. Well, I'm hoping that students, by the time they reach university level, that they have gone through a K-12 systems that have enriched their experiences in their own culture. Good schools, and we have a high percentage of good to very good to excellent schools in Lebanon. I don't know if the conflict keeps going on, if that will be maintained, but right now it's still the case. So these schools are rich. I know my children, they did a lot of activities that entail travel. Every time they travel, they come back different. You can see their eyes open more, and they come back with all sorts of stories and so on. So it is really up to the school to make sure that students have at least mastered their culture by the time they receive their high school diploma, which is, in Lebanon, it's 15 years. You have 12 years, and they have 3 years preschool. KG1, KG2, KG3. Some of them start before KG1 as well. So that really depends on the school to a large extent. I mean, like universities, there are good and bad schools as well. And that's why I tried when I was minister. Actually, I passed a decree that forms a quality assurance board for higher education institutions that require them to seek institutional accreditation, so some form of quality assurance from anywhere in the world. And also I encouraged schools to do the same, because once you do, all these ideas have to be integrated into the curriculum. Students? Mark told me that you'll get extra grades if you ask questions.
We still have time for one or two more. More comments?
May I ask another question regarding Lebanon? Because of the multicultural character, again, in primary and secondary education, I'm interested, because of also our multicultural character in Cyprus. Do you teach in secondary schools and primary schools the cultures of the other communities? Is this a part of the curriculum? Is this a part of the program of education because I think it's very important for peace as well. If you know the other community, if you respect the other community, language-wise, religion-wise, culture-wise, you tend to be more friendly, and of course this leads to more peaceful relations and cooperation.
Yeah.
This is a question I wanted to know about.
Yeah. Well, as you mentioned, because Lebanon is such a highly multicultural, not just with respect to religion or ethnicity or sect, also social status, nationality. By the way, we have 6 million Lebanese in Lebanon. We have about 20 million Lebanese outside Lebanon. So there are 10 million in Brazil alone. Yeah. So these people come and go all the time. So that when they come, they give a dose of the other culture, in Lebanon. So, I mean, students are rubbing shoulders all the time with other cultures. It could be your cousin or it could be your uncle coming from abroad, a Lebanese, but also a second nationality. I'm the only politician probably that has only one nationality. A lot of them have 2, 3, 4 nationalities. Anyway, and don't forget, I mean, not these past few years due to COVID and due to the internal strife, due to the situation in the Middle East, but in general, over the past decades, like Cyprus, we have a large number of tourists coming from all over. Lebanon is, they used to call it the Switzerland of the Middle East, still is. When we have security, it's probably one of the most beautiful countries in the world. So I'm saying this to say that in normal state, we get all sorts of foreign cultures come to Lebanon, and at the end of the day, they leave an essence with the Lebanese. When they mingle with them, they leave an essence with them. So it's a trickle-down effect. So the parents are affected, and the children are affected, and their brothers, their cousins. So in my opinion, it's not just the school environment, it's the whole social environment in Lebanon where students are much more aware of other cultures compared to, let's say, other Arab countries. To be honest, this is, in my opinion, one of the factors that lead to the success of the Lebanese when they graduate and travel. Of course, it's the languages as well, it's their educational system, it's their awareness of their surroundings, other cultures, and so on.
Thank you, Honorable Prime Minister. According to World Economic Forum Gender Gap Report 2022, it seems like Lebanon has a challenge of gender inequality in terms of education, employment. So you have been a Minister of Education in Lebanon, but also you have been a Prime Minister. So I would just to know the contribution of cultural diplomas in Lebanon to overcome such kind of challenge.
Yeah, so it is a challenge, but I'm very different from the rest of the politicians in so many ways with respect to this issue. So I'll just give you a couple of results when I was Minister of Education and Higher Education back in 2011 to 2014. The World Economic Forum that you mentioned, their report after 2.5 years in office, if you look at their annual, they produce an annual report at the end of each year that gives all sorts of statistics based on KPIs, including higher education, economy, and what have you. So if you look at the December 2013 annual report of the WEF, you will find that Lebanon is ranked in the following manner. Number one, it ranked 13 out of 144. It's still on on the internet. You can look it up. 13 out of 144 in quality of schools of businesses. I'm talking about higher education now. There are other statistics for education as well. 13 out of 144. Quality of education, 10 out of 144. And quality of teaching science and math, we were 4 out of 144. We were preceded by Singapore, Finland, and Belgium. So Lebanon stands up there in education. Now, gender equality, well, he mentioned, I'm the first prime minister that walked the talk. So I insisted, I told, the parliament and the politicians, unless I have a third of the cabinet female, woman, I'm not interested, find someone else. And I was lucky because at the time they were stuck because of the revolution that started in October 2019. Million people on the road that all said, we want a technocrat prime minister, we want an independent prime minister. Saad al-Hariri at the time, who was prime minister before me, was a good man, but he's a politician. At the end of the day, he has a political party. He tried to create or establish a technocrat cabinet, to put technocrats in various ministries, but then people said, you're not a technocrat as well. So at the end of the day, they wanted somebody that is fully technocrat, independent, academic, someone with my specification. Unfortunately, I happened to be the one. And I insisted that it was the first cabinet of 20, and it was the first time in the MENA region, not in Lebanon, that a third of the cabinet were ladies, were women. And they received very important positions. So my deputy prime minister, the first in the Arab world, 22 countries in 100 years, was a female. The minister of defense was a female. It's unthinkable in Lebanon or in the world. If you look at the world, very few countries. Minister of Justice was female, an outstanding lady. Each one of the ladies, it was the first time that a lady took over such a position in Lebanon, even at the sect level. The first time you have a Catholic female, first time you have a Druze. Druze, impossible to suggest females, I think when there's a will, there's a way. If there's insistence on the people that are in power, that are making the decisions, then we can close the gap. But the gender gap and the inequality is not just in that respect. It's all over the place. I mean, you look at average salaries in universities, in schools, in the public sector, everywhere. It's different from, for female from male. I think the only country in the world that by law it has to be the same salary scale is Iceland, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that's correct.
Everywhere else, you have the same problem. Even the US and Germany, you have the same problem. Maybe not as acute as the Middle East, but you have the same problem. It's all over. But I think at the end of the day, and I've said that many times before, in order to have some degree of gender equality in the parliament, this is the most important part, because that's where laws are enacted. That's where they vote for, everything, new laws that decide on the roadmap of almost everything in the country, any country. There has to be a minimum quota. And in fact, when I was minister back in June 2011, the first agenda item in the cabinet was the electoral law. We were about to have parliamentary elections a few months after that. So they were talking about the new law. And I was the only one out of a 30, it was a cabinet of 30 at the time, that insisted, but I'm a single vote, so it didn't go through, that insisted that there has to be a minimum quota for women in the parliament. And it can be done by law. Of course, you know how men are. They say, no, it could be up to 50%, but it ends up at 5%. So it didn't pass. I think it's very important for the parliament to have gender equality because having women there, they will take into account all the laws that will be enacted by the parliament that will affect gender equality in everything, all sectors and everything else. The cabinet is good, but I think the pivotal area in terms of sustainability, in terms of making durable changes is the parliament. And if you look at a lot of the countries, not just in the Middle East, across the globe, there are very few women in parliaments. And I think, if not better, they're as good as men are. And I think they should be. I mean, we failed. If you look at the past 100 years, men failed. Let women have a chance.
On that note, let's express our sincere gratitude to Professor Diab. Excellent presentation.
Thank you.